Have you ever been so good at hiding that you forgot who you really were? That's the question Leona Carter asked herself every single day until the moment a coffee cup shattered on a restaurant floor and exposed the one secret she'd spent 3 years protecting. Not because of the sound, but because of the silence that followed. Because while everyone else gasped and turned, one woman at table 7 never even flinched. And the shy girl who'd built her entire life around being invisible suddenly became the only person in the room anyone could see. 0-15-1 Setup. The Sterling Oak restaurant sits on Manhattan's Upper East Side, where crystal chandeliers cast judgment as readily as light, and the weekend brunch crowd measures human worth in bank statements. 24-year-old Leona Carter moved between tables like a shadow eye's downcast shoulders, slightly hunched hands that trembled whenever the manager's sharp voice cut through the dining room. 9 months she'd worked here, and most customers couldn't pick her out of a lineup. Invisible, forgettable, safe. That Sunday morning, the usual power brokers filled their usual tables, discussing mergers over mimosas. Skylar Evans, the restaurant manager, stood sentinel by the host. Stand arms crossed, hawk eyes missing nothing, especially not mistakes that gave her an excuse to remind the staff of their expendability. The kitchen clattered with the mechanical rhythm of expensive food production, and Leona refilled water glasses, her Columbia University linguistics degree buried so deep it might as well have been cremated with her old life. Then they walked in. Jonathan Blake, 32, tech CEO, moving with the kind of confidence money and success breed, guided his mother to table 7 by the window. But it was the way he guided her that made Leona's chest tighten. Gentle, protective. His hand at his mother's elbow, not controlling but supporting. It was heartwarming in a way that reminded Leona of families she'd lost. Cassidy Blake moved with elegant hesitation, her eyes scanning the room with an expression Leona recognized instantly, searching for connection in a world that rarely offered it. 60 years old, beautifully dressed and profoundly deaf. Leona noticed, because she always noticed the invisible ones, the overlooked ones, the ones others glanced at, then quickly looked away from, uncomfortable with difference. As the shy girl approached their table order pad, clutched like a shield, she watched Jonathan pull out his mother's chair with such tenderness it hurt. Watched Cassidy's grateful smile tinged with something that looked like loneliness, and Leona understood. Loneliness recognizes loneliness across any crowded room. Jonathan opened his mouth to order for both of them, but Cassidy gently touched his wrist and began signing. Fast, fluid, expressive, the kind of ASL fluency that takes years to develop. Jonathan started translating, but Leona's hands moved before her brain could stop them, before she could remember the rules of invisibility, before she could protect herself. Her fingers formed perfect signs explaining the day's specials with nuanced detail, regional variations, even a joke about the chef's obsession with truffle oil. University-level fluent. Academic precise. Impossible to fake. The restaurant noise didn't fade, it disappeared. Cassidy's face transformed from polite customer to stunned recognition. Jonathan's coffee cup slipped from his fingers, hit the edge of the table, and shattered across the floor in a spray of porcelain and dark liquid. But neither of them looked at the mess. They stared at Leona, this shy, hunched, invisible waitress, and she watched her carefully constructed anonymity crack like the cup at her feet. Cassidy's hands moved slowly, deliberately, eyes suddenly bright with curiosity. Where did a waitress learn to sign like a linguistics professor? And Leona knew. She'd just made the mistake she'd spent 3 years avoiding. She'd let someone see her. What should have been an inspirational moment of human connection felt instead like exposure, like danger. What secret is this waitress so desperate to keep hidden? Jonathan's voice cut through the moment sharp with curiosity. That's not community center sign language. That's academic, professional. He leaned forward, executive instincts engaged. Who are you really? Anxiety flooded Leona's chest. Across the restaurant, Skylar's glare burned into her back. Too much time at one table, too much conversation, too much visibility. I took classes, years ago. Community center. The lie sat bitter on her tongue. She turned to leave, desperate to escape, but Cassidy's hand caught her wrist. Not rough, just insistent. Cassidy signed again, and this time Jonathan's translation carried weight. My mother says you sign like someone who studied linguistics at university level. She wants to know why you're hiding. Leona's throat closed. She gently pulled her hand free, shaking her head. I really need to get back to work. I apologize about the cup. I'll send someone to clean it. She fled before the walls could crumble further, before 3 years of careful invisibility could shatter completely. In the kitchen's harsh fluorescent light, she pressed trembling palms against the cold steel counter. Skylar's voice sliced through her panic. Carter, table 7 is still waiting for their order. What were you doing out there performing Shakespeare? The manager's face was sharp with contempt. You're a waitress, not a guest lecturer. Take orders, deliver food, collect tips, stay invisible. That's what I pay you minimum wage to do. Understand? Yes, ma'am. The words came automatically, shoulders hunching further. Leona returned to table 7 with their orders written, eyes fixed on her pad. But she could feel Jonathan's gaze following her like a spotlight she couldn't escape. Every time she glanced over, he was watching not with hostility, but with intense curiosity. At table 4, elderly Adrian Miller watched the interaction with knowing eyes. He'd been a Sunday regular for months, always alone, always kind. When Leona caught his eye, he nodded slowly, not judgment, but recognition. When she brought their check, Cassidy was ready. She'd written in a small notebook, "Thank you for seeing me. Most people see the deafness and look away uncomfortable. You looked at me like I was whole, like I mattered. That's rare and beautiful." Leona's eyes burned. She picked up the pen with shaking hands and wrote back, "You are whole. The world just doesn't listen properly." Cassidy's face transformed with genuine joy. She signed directly to Leona. "Will you be here next Sunday?" Leona nodded, not trusting her voice. Jonathan left a tip that was 4 times the bill amount. Tucked underneath was his business card and a handwritten note. "My mother is never wrong about people. She says you're hiding something important. When you're ready to tell the truth, call me." That night, in her tiny studio apartment in Queens, she lay on her second-hand futon and stared at water stains on the ceiling. And remembered. Columbia University 5 years ago. The linguistics department's brightest rising star. Research on universal sign language frameworks that could revolutionize deaf communication worldwide. Professors calling her work groundbreaking. A future so bright she'd needed sunglasses. And Daniel Chen. Brilliant, charming Daniel with his easy smile and ambitious plans. Her research partner. Her fiancé. Her entire future wrapped in one beautiful package. Until he unwrapped it and stole everything inside. Until he presented her research as his sole work. Until he twisted the narrative when she confronted him, made her the villain, got her expelled 3 months before graduation. Until her name became poison in academic circles and her career died before it began. She'd learned that being visible meant being vulnerable. That invisibility, while lonely, at least kept you safe. The next Sunday they returned. Jonathan and